totally wide open. Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is coming from Obyron off Irwood. When this happened, 2007, the drugs used, DOI and alcohol, at a dose of 8 milligrams. And no, I don't know if this is accurate. That would be a very, very strong dose of DOI, but the subject is at a weight of 300 pounds, so that may play an effect, but we'll talk more about that at the end. The route of administration was through a solution of vodka, gender, male, age, 25, prior experience, used to be a smoker and a drinker, did LSD, mushrooms, 2CE, and DOI, and the setting was at his house in Kentucky. So this report is actually a pretty positive and generally favorable DOI experience. I would guess this was due to the subject's set going in, but I'll let you guys make that judgment yourself. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. The basics. Subject, 25-year-old white male, recently quit smoking, again, overweight, but in very good health according to the latest physical. Substance, 8 milligrams of DOI in a 1 milliliter solution of vodka. It's actually left over from the last batch I mixed up, so it's been sitting in a solution in my freezer for a while. A month? 2? The short version. Peaked anywhere from 90 minutes to 3 hours from ingestion, down to +1 within 14 hours. A lot like acid, but a lot not. The long version. I've always been a fan of long trips. My first trip was on LSD, and so maybe the earth-shattering nature of that trip set the tone for what I'd expect all future trips to be in terms of length and intensity. Tryptamines are great, and I eat them when I'm in the mood for a short shift of mood or mindset, but aside from mushrooms, they're just not my choice for visionary exploration. 2CE was great, but PEAs really made my day when I got the chance to try DOI. It's been unpredictable for me, and I'm a bit of a hardhead anyway, so for my latest experiment, I decided to try 8 milligrams. The result totally blew me away. It's Saturday afternoon, and I know this one could last a while. I've never experienced the epic lengths other people seem to with DOI. My several 2 to 5 milligram experiments have been up and down in about 10 hours, but I know that 8 milligrams is a jump, and I just want to budget plenty of time just in case. I ran out of cigarettes a couple of weeks ago, and just for shits and giggles, I decided to see what would happen if I simply didn't buy more. I quit every now and then for periods of time with varying degrees of seriousness. It's going so-so. Quitting alcohol has gone a lot better for me. I had a couple of beers at a club the other night for atmosphere, but I got nothing out of the experience besides an appreciation for how much clubs jack up the price of a bottle of Budweiser. I haven't touched hard liquor or been drunk in months. For this reason, the hardest part of the whole trip for me is the taste of even 8 milliliters of vodka. Is this really what this shit tastes like? I used to drink vodka neat all the time, and I don't remember it being this nasty. Chased with Coke, down the hatch. It's about 5 p.m. I settle into bed to read for a bit and wait for the effects to come up. I'm reading The Celestine Prophecy, and I'm right near the end. The ideas in the book are interesting, but the writing is by far some of the shittiest I've ever seen. The fact that this book was such a bestseller astounds me and gives me hope for my own writing. Don't use allegory to tell a story if the best you can do is a really shitty allegory. Keep some artistic integrity and go nonfiction. So, yeah, the ideas are neat, but the writing is almost physically painful to me. At some point, approximately 30 minutes after dosing, I fall asleep. I wake up at 8 p.m. in the sense that I've regained control of my consciousness and I am objectively aware that I exist in a bed somewhere in Kentucky. How was I asleep? How long did I dream? Am I still dreaming? The visions are intense. It takes all of my energy not to stare dumbfounded at the shifting patterns of light and crawling geometric figures on my walls. For a while, I do just that. I am aware of a great energy and joy bubbling up within me. This has always been the thing I loved most about DOI. Sometimes it's mind-crushingly psychedelic and visual, and sometimes it hits me like LSD in more of a analytical, thought-loopy kind of way without being overtly hallucinogenic. Yet, always at the heart of it all is that irrepressible energy. It puts me in touch with a sense of what I can only call childlike exuberance. For a little while, everything seems new, and the world is exploding with possibilities. Maybe it's always like this, and the cruel cynicism and dejectedness of the daily grind won't let me see it. The joy and happiness bubbling out of me makes me want to cry, and I think for a while I do that too. The closed-eye visuals are the most amazing and intense closed-eye visuals I've ever experienced in my life. I've always kind of ignored the closed-eyed stuff until now, but this totally taught me respect. At times, it was like my whole head was filled with color, in stark bands of, for example, red, with clearly defined sweeping edges between shades. I experienced reds, blues, greens, purples, oranges, and with each color I could actually feel bodily sensation. With red, I felt warmer. With blue, I felt cooler. With green, my skin would tingle. With purples, it felt like someone was running their fingers over my body. At other times, it's like there is a film running on the backs of my eyelids, which I am watching in high definition. The depth and fluidity of it just amazed me. Coming out of sleep in a heavy +3 is like seeing the entire world again for the first time. As I wake up, my brain is interpreting every single thing I see as new information. I roll around for a while, lost somewhere between dreaming and awake. I know there were thoughts carrying over from frenzied psychedelic dreams I was having, but I cannot remember them. At some point, I finished the last few pages of the Celestine Prophecy, and by 9:30, I'm ready to put on some music and move around. I'm a huge fan of the Crystal Method, and so I put on Legion of Boom and dance around my house. As always, this amuses my dog. The last track of the disc is one of my favorite TCM tunes of all time, and it perfectly encapsulates the feeling of the trip. I'm going through what I feel is a time of cleansing in my life. I'm trying to cleanse myself of the unhealthy, narcissistic, self-absorbed habits like drinking and cigarettes or eating shitty food so that I can get more in touch with my own nature, my own being. Energy has always eluded me. I am aware of my energy, the energy of places, the energy of music, the energy of so many things. Yet I'm unable to harness this energy and do anything with it or feel anything from it. I always feel somehow distant from situations and places and from other people. Music and reading are the only two activities that can generally get me into a meditative zone where I can feel something, but it's still like I'm missing something. This track comes on, and for 7 minutes and 25 seconds, I get it. During that time, I was totally in touch with the energy I felt inside of me, and with the thing that makes me, me, and that sustains me. As the song says, I have been informed that it's totally wide open. I had a moment in there where I just completely hippied out and became one with the universe, and it felt so amazing that I can't express it. If I knew how to recapture that feeling, waking and sober, I'd persist in nirvana until the second of my death. The rest of the trip was great, but for me, the absolute peak of it was the 7.5 minutes in which I was totally wide open. Things wound down from there, and by 5 a.m., I'm at a +1. By 7 a.m., I can go to sleep without feeling like I'm missing anything worthwhile. I woke up at 4 p.m. feeling like $1,000,000, although still at a loss at how to harness all the energy around me. Back at it again for DOI, the psychedelic amphetamine. If you don't know what DOI is, it's a substance that was made by the infamous Sasha Shulgin alongside some others in the DOX family. The trip lasts typically 16 hours plus, and normally even at common doses, the stimulation with it is noted to be pretty strong. The trip itself has been comparable to LSD. Often it offers an active visual playing field. The headspace for the most part seems to be manageable for most people, not guaranteed, but in general, especially closer to the start, people are able to handle it. Normally irritation comes up when you're 16 hours in and still tripping and you're starting to become sleep deprived. This experience went much smoother and in sequence with the energy he carried into the trip. I'm sure him quitting smoking was a pretty big deal, and his peak seemed to be a moment of empowerment. And when we look at our other past reports of DOI, this isn't always the case. I do think that the traditional rule of setting a mindset plays a strong factor towards the experience, and when we look at the trip Serious Medicine or Poison by Raki, he ended up thinking about a lot of moral and spiritual context, which is something he felt he needed. While looking at How Not to Trip by Blizzard, he noted being cold a lot, which I imagine the environment was just generally cold, which in result played a role in him not feeling the greatest. Then the other trip, Tons of Energy by Frank, was heavily influenced by the city's environment and the user's mindset to have a good night out together, which in result led them to having a fairly positive experience. The only thing about this experience that is really questionable is the dosage. 8 milligrams, yeah, that would be a heroic dose, and Obyron reported not even being awake for a full day straight, which, not saying it's impossible, but the stimulation should have had him up for a much longer time, so maybe he overestimated the dose, maybe the batch wasn't as strong as it was thought to be, maybe he had a prior stimulant tolerance that led to him needing such a strong dose. But among all the experiences in common are the general stimulant effects, alongside it having the potential for a strong or light trip. One thing I do find interesting though is among all the DOI experiences we've reported, except Tons of Energy, the users have slept into their trip. It's a pretty cool theme, and I wonder if DOI maybe has some initial sedating effects before the drug actually kicks in. But with that, we're going to end it there. If you guys like this and want to see more DOI or any of the DOX family or any drug in general, let me know below and we'll cover it. If you guys like this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, follow the socials. It's been someone that's no one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.